I want you to imagine, just for a second, that you're standing in front of a vending machine in some brightly lit hallway.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Right. And you're hitting the buttons, you're shaking the glass, maybe you're even shouting in frustration because your favorite snack just isn't dropping into the tray.
Yeah, we've all been there. It's infuriating.
Exactly. And you feel like you deserve it. You've been waiting for it, but nothing is happening.
Yeah.
But there's one fundamental problem.
You haven't put any coins in the slot.
You haven't put any coins in. The machine isn't broken. It's not like conspiring against you. It is simply waiting for an exchange.
Right.
And now apply that exact image to your bank account.
Oh, wow.
Okay, yeah. What if the reason you might be struggling financially isn't a bad economy or bad luck or even a lack of funds, but a foundational misunderstanding of what money actually is? Like the actual mechanical nature of wealth.
That's a really uncomfortable thought for a lot of people, I think. Because we often grow up subconsciously treating money as this sort of cosmic reward system. Like, if you work hard, if you are a generally good person, money should naturally find its way to you as a reward.
Yeah, the universe will just provide.
Exactly. But if you strip away all of that emotional attachment and view wealth strictly as a mechanical exchange, well, it changes how you interact with absolutely everything.
And that mechanical exchange is exactly what we are digging into today on this deep dive. We're going to explore the financial philosophy of Prophet Hubert Angel, and this is all based on a really highly charged, unapologetic address he gave to his audience.
Yeah, it's definitely not your standard skip your morning latte financial advice.
Not at all. It is a demanding, super aggressive framework for total market domination. And look, before we get into the nuts and bolts of this, we need to be really upfront with you. The speaker we're analyzing today does not sugarcoat a single word.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Like, at one point, he looks right at his audience and explicitly tells them they are broke because they are, quote, stupid.
Yeah, it's intense.
So we just want to clarify, we are not here to take a side on whether that abrasive style is right or wrong, or to endorse any of the political or controversial undertones. We're simply here to impartially dissect his actual financial mechanics. We want to see if the math holds up to the rhetoric.
Right, because beneath the shock value of calling an audience stupid, there actually is a highly structured argument at play here.
Okay, so let's get into it. Where does his argument actually start?
It starts with a total redefinition of how wealth is acquired. The absolute bedrock of this philosophy is the assertion that money is never a promise. It is a covenant.
Wait, so if a promise is passive, are you saying, like, the concept of a safety net or just expecting things to eventually work out for you is fundamentally at odds with this philosophy?
It completely strips it away by design.
Because that takes away a lot of comfort.
It really does. But think about the psychology of a promise. If someone promises you something, the burden of action is entirely on them, right?
Yeah, I just have to sit there and wait for the delivery.
Exactly. A promise inherently creates a passive state of receiving. A covenant, however, that's an entirely different legal and spiritual concept. It requires a binding active agreement between two parties.
Like a transaction.
Yes. You don't get the result unless you fulfill your end of the bargain. The philosophy here argues that the market, or the universe, or however you want to frame it, did not promise you a dime.
Wow.
Money is only ever exchanged for a product. So if you do not have a product, you fundamentally do not deserve money, period.
You have to bring something to the table. You can't just manifest wealth by visualizing it really hard while sitting on your couch.
Right. The machine needs a coin.
Okay, which means we need to look at his 5-step roadmap for actually building that wealth.
Yeah.
And step 1 sounds almost biblical, but it has a very ruthless business application, which is be fruitful.
Yes. And we really need to separate this from the vague idea of just being a productive person.
Like having a good work ethic.
Right. Being fruitful in this context is literal. It's tangible. You must produce a physical or conceptual fruit. You have to create an actual product, a service, or a piece of intellectual property that someone else can consume.
Got it.
Because until you cross that threshold from consumer to producer, you haven't even entered the economic game.
Okay, so let's say I invent a new type of, I don't know, an ergonomic coffee mug. I'm fruitful. I made a thing.
We made a thing.
Step 2 is multiply. Now, my immediate instinct here as a business owner is to say, great, I have a mug. Now I need to invent a matching plate and a specialized spoon to expand my brand.
Yeah, that's what most people think.
Right. But the source is obsessively specific about this step. Multiplication isn't about variety, is it? It's about making the exact same thing over and over.
Standardization, that is the word. This is where the vast majority of small businesses actually fail.
Really, just from trying to do too much.
Yeah. The source uses this fascinating analogy comparing McDonald's and KFC to explain the mechanics of market dominance.
Oh, okay. I love a fast food analogy. Let's hear it.
Why is McDonald's a ubiquitous, multi-billion-dollar juggernaut? Because they mastered exact replication. The chemical composition, the temperature, the taste of a burger in Baghdad is virtually identical to a burger in South Africa.
That's actually kind of crazy to think about.
It is. Think about the logistical nightmare of making a potato grown in Idaho taste exactly like one grown in France once it's fried.
Right.
McDonald's conquered that.
So it's universally predictable. You are buying the certainty just as much as you're buying the food.
Exactly. Whereas, according to the source's observation, KFC has historically struggled more with that level of militant consistency across its autonomous franchisees.
Oh, yeah. I mean, have you ever heard someone say, like, oh, avoid the drive-thru on 5th Street, the chicken is always dry, go to the one downtown?
Yes, everyone has their good location and their bad location for certain fast food chains.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, the moment the consumer can tell a difference between two locations, you have failed at step 2. True multiplication requires a rigorous, almost obsessive level of standardization. If you introduce variety too early, or, if your quality fluctuates based on who is working the Tuesday afternoon shift, you simply cannot scale.
Because you can't manage a global empire if you can't flawlessly clone your first success.
Right.
That is a massive paradigm shift. It's not about doing 100 things pretty well. It's about doing one thing so perfectly that it becomes infinitely clonable.
Precisely.
Okay, so I have my coffee mug, and I figure out how to manufacture 10,000 identical copies. Step 3 is replenish. Now, this just sounds like basic inventory management. Why is this its own distinct step on the path to, like, dominion?
Because it is deeply psychological. Replenish means mastering your supply chain so thoroughly that you never, ever experience a stockout.
Okay.
The source argues that you should never have a customer come to you ready to fulfill their end of the covenant by exchanging their money for your product, only to be told, sorry, we're out.
I mean, let's look at the modern consumer. Our attention spans are basically zero. If I want to buy your specific brand of headphones and your website says out of stock, I don't wait 2 weeks for you to restock. I click on your competitor.
And when they buy from the competitor, you didn't just lose a single sale.
Right.
You lost the lifetime value of that customer because you broke the trust of the covenant. You forced them to go build a new habit with someone else.
That makes a lot of sense. So mastering inventory isn't just about counting boxes in a warehouse. It's about maintaining a psychological hold on your customer base by guaranteeing availability.
Exactly. Which naturally sets the stage for step 4, which is subdue.
Subdue.
Yeah. Subduing the market happens when your production, your flawless standardization, and your bulletproof supply chain allow you to stop just participating in the market and start dictating its terms.
But how does that actually look in reality? Like, how does a business owner know when they've crossed that line from participating to subduing?
You know you've subdued the market when competitors start reacting to your moves instead of you reacting to theirs.
Oh, so you become the pace setter.
Right. You control the pricing elasticity, you set the industry trends, you start acquiring the smaller players who just can't keep up with your supply chain. You have systemized your business so well that it operates like an unstoppable machine, just steadily swallowing up market share.
And the ultimate destination of that machine is step 5, dominion.
Yes.
You are the undisputed number 1 in your space.
Yes.
There is no close second place. You are the monopoly.
It's a brutal but really logically sound progression. Produce, replicate flawlessly, never run out, control the environment, and finally, rule the space.
Okay, so if we have this incredibly clean mechanical blueprint for wealth, why is the vast majority of the population struggling? I mean, if the math is this straightforward, what breaks the equation for the average person?
Well, this is where the source gets incredibly provocative, pointing the finger directly at the individual's mind.
Right, because the defining quote of this entire philosophy, the one that really jolts the audience, is when he says, poverty is not the absence of money, it is the absence of thinking. You are broke because you're stupid.
He does say that.
And, okay, I have to push the pause button right here.
I figured you would.
Because on its face, that is deeply insulting to millions of hardworking people. When he uses the word stupid, is he talking about literal IQ? Are we talking about standardized test scores and book smarts? Because honestly, history is full of literal geniuses
Yeah.
who died completely penniless.
It's a vital distinction to make, and it's why we have to look past the abrasive delivery to understand the underlying mechanic here.
Right.
The source is absolutely not talking about academic intelligence or formal education. He is talking about a very specific, aggressive type of financial resourcefulness.
Okay.
It's what we might call applied intellect or a high-capacity mindset. The premise is that money is inherently subject to intelligence. Your brain dictates your money.
Meaning money is just physical evidence of how your brain processes opportunity.
Yes. And the source offers a pretty compelling thought experiment to prove this.
Let's hear it.
Imagine a genuinely wealthy person, someone who built their empire through their own capacity, not through, a lottery ticket or a massive inheritance.
Okay, self-made.
Right. Now, strip them of absolutely everything. Take their bank accounts, their real estate, their political connections, leave them with nothing but the clothes on their back.
Start from absolute zero.
The argument is that this person won't panic. They will simply ask for time. Just give them a year or two. Because their intellectual capacity, the internal blueprint of how to generate value, remains entirely intact.
Oh, so they didn't lose their wealth. They just lost their current inventory of cash.
Exactly.
The machine that prints the cash is still sitting right there inside their head.
Exactly. And conversely, the text argues that people with a quote-unquote poor mindset lack this specific internal blueprint. When they face financial ruin, they don't look inward to improve their intellectual machine, they look outward.
So they play the blame game.
Right, they blame the government, they blame macroeconomics, they get mad at their boss, or they even blame their relatives who won't loan them cash. It is a complete externalization of the problem.
It's the difference between an internal locus of control, where you believe you dictate your fate, and an external locus, where you view yourself as just a passive victim of circumstance.
Exactly.
And there's this fascinating linguistic detail in this source that highlights how deeply this mindset goes regarding the Chinese language.
Oh, yes. It's a brilliant psychological mechanism. The source points out that in Mandarin, the word often used to represent the concept of crisis or chaos, the word Ouija, is actually composed of two characters.
Right.
One represents danger, and the other is deeply intertwined with the concept of opportunity or a crucial point.
So when the market crashes or things fall apart, a low-capacity mind sees tragedy, freezes, and looks for someone to blame.
Yes.
But a high-capacity mind looks at that exact same chaos and sees the building blocks for a new structure. They see a gap in the market that's just opened up.
Because a high-capacity mind is biased toward immediate action. The overarching rule the speaker gives is, if your brain is moving, your money is moving.
I really want to tie that action bias to the story of the British investor, because this anecdote, it really crystallized the whole concept for me.
It's a great example.
So the source describes bringing a highly successful UK investor to Zimbabwe. And it's his first time ever stepping foot on the African continent.
Right.
They land, and as a gesture of high honor, they take him straight to a meeting with the president of the country to present his intentions.
Now, put yourself in the shoes of a typical business person in that scenario. You are in a developing market, you're sitting with the head of state.
Right. The standard playbook is to ask for a massive government grant or a subsidized contract or some kind of financial safety net to mitigate your risk before you invest a dime.
But this investor doesn't ask for any money. He just lays out his intention to bring value.
Yeah. And then the meeting ends, the local host goes home, and later that evening, he tries to track the investor down at his luxury hotel. But the investor isn't there.
He's gone.
They finally locate him, and he is walking around the bustling downtown streets of Harare. When they call him in a panic to ask what he's doing, his answer is just, "I'm taking orders."
On his very first day.
Yes, on a brand new continent.
He didn't wait to form an exploratory committee. He didn't wait for government approval or a feasibility study or a perfectly polished business plan.
His mind was wired for such relentless action that he was physically on the street, finding immediate needs and pitching solutions within hours of getting off a plane.
That is the applied intelligence the source says is missing from people who are broke.
So if this relentless, action-oriented mindset is the true engine of wealth, how does that translate into the actual physical moment you hand someone a dollar bill?
Well, the source argues that the very words we use for everyday transactions are actually keeping us anchored to a state of poverty.
Right, he demands a total change in our financial vocabulary. We have to completely eliminate the word spending from our lives.
This is where the philosophy becomes a daily practice. Average people spend money. The
Mhm.
word spend implies a finality. It implies exhaustion. You buy a designer jacket you can't really afford, or, as the source bluntly illustrates, people waste money funding temporary relationships.
Like buying lavish gifts for boyfriends or girlfriends who leave 2 weeks later.
Exactly. The money is spent, it is gone forever.
Okay, let me try an analogy here to see if I'm grasping the mechanics.
Hmm.
Imagine wealth is water in a closed ecosystem.
Okay, I'm with you.
Spending is like taking a bucket of water and just pouring it directly into dry dirt. It evaporates, it disappears. You get a momentary dark patch of mud, a brief dopamine hit of having bought something new, and then nothing.
Yes.
But the source demands that we circulate money instead. So that's like taking that same bucket of water and pouring it over a water wheel.
That is a very accurate representation of the mechanics here. When you pour it over the water wheel, the water turns the gears, it generates power for your mill, and then it flows into a river that eventually cycles right back around to your property.
So the water left your hands, but it wasn't lost. It was deployed.
Deploy, exactly.
Money into land, assets, or investments. It goes out, but it comes back as money in proper form. You are still rich. Your money is just temporarily wearing a different outfit.
Exactly. And this mindset shift from losing money to deploying money culminates in the ultimate takeaway of the address, which is raise your value and money will look for you.
So stop desperately chasing cash.
The philosophy insists on it. Money is simply a neutral measurement of value. If you increase your internal value, the measurement naturally increases to match it.
But how do you actually broadcast that internal value to the world? Like, how do the ultra-wealthy signal to each other that they possess this high capacity?
Well, the source provides three absolutely wild anecdotes about this, starting with the Richard Mill watch.
Okay, yeah. So the source describes a man who wears a $2 million Richard Mill watch. Yet he casually notes to the speaker that his daily routine involves drinking a basic $1 cup of tea.
Right.
$2 million on the wrist, $1 in the cup. The contrast is insane.
But the contrast is the point. The man explains that he doesn't need to hand out paper business cards when he walks into a high-stakes boardroom. His watch does the talking.
Wow.
Before he even opens his mouth, the real people, the other high-level players in the room, they instantly recognize what that specific watch represents. It's a silent megaphone announcing his net worth, his success, and his capacity to generate massive value.
It completely bypasses the need to brag because the asset just speaks for itself.
Exactly.
Okay, the second anecdote is about a Dubai billionaire and a phone cover.
Mm,
And I have to be honest, this one triggered my defensive instincts big time.
it usually does.
So the story goes that a young man secures a rare meeting with a prominent billionaire in Dubai. The young man pulls out his phone, which is a premium $2,000 device. But the billionaire notices the phone is wrapped in a protective case.
Right.
And because of that case, the billionaire immediately cancels the meeting and refuses to do business with him.
Yep.
See, wait. I literally have a thick, shockproof case on my phone right now.
Yeah.
How is protecting a $2,000 asset a bad thing?
I know.
Isn't that just fundamentally smart financial risk management? Why would a piece of plastic cancel a multi-million-dollar meeting?
Okay, to the average person, it is smart. But remember, we are talking about the psychology of the ultra-wealthy.
Okay.
Let's break down the billionaire's underlying logic. At the $100 million level, business is entirely about embracing and managing massive, terrifying amounts of risk.
Right.
If you bubble wrap your phone to prevent a relatively tiny $2,000 loss, it tells the billionaire that your nervous system physically cannot handle stress.
Oh, wow.
It signals a deeply ingrained mindset of scarcity and fear. To the billionaire, if a $2,000 loss would be so devastating to you that you have to wrap it in plastic, there is absolutely no way you can be trusted to handle the psychological pressure of a $100 million gamble.
That is ruthless.
You have to project an aura of absolute abundance.
He's using a microscopic behavioral detail to judge macro-level financial capacity.
Exactly.
Which perfectly sets up the final anecdote. Dr. Ramsamumbo and the 50 cents.
Yes, this story illustrates the absolute strictness of valuing capital.
Right?
So Dr. Mumbo, who is a very wealthy man driving a pristine, top-of-the-line Mercedes E-Class, is paying a parking fee of £4.50.
Correct.
He hands the attendant a £5 note. The attendant says he doesn't have the 50 cents in change, gesturing to the luxury car and the long line of traffic behind them, essentially implying, come on, man, you're rich, just let the 50 cents go.
And the wealthy man flat out refuses. He demands his 50 cents.
Huh?
And when he's challenged on why he's holding up the line over pocket change, his response is incredible.
It is.
He points to his Mercedes and says, "This is the way I got this car. I did not leave my 50 cents lying around."
It beautifully ties the entire philosophy together. It's like the broken windows theory applied to personal finance.
Yeah.
Every single fraction of value matters. You do not achieve dominion in the market by carelessly leaking value, no matter how insignificant the amount seems to someone else. The 50 cents and the Mercedes are governed by the exact same intellectual principles.
If you disrespect the pennies, you will eventually lose the empire.
That's the lesson.
So to bring all of this together for you today, wealth is not a magical promise that rewards good behavior. It is a strict, demanding covenant. You have to produce a product, standardize it flawlessly, master your inventory so you never break trust, and systematically subdue the market until you are the undisputed dominant force. And to do any of that, you have to evict the scarcity mindset. Stop spending your money into the dirt, start circulating it through the water wheel, and raise your internal intellectual value until the market has no choice but to compensate you for it.
It really is a total reconstruction of how you view your own agency in the economic world.
It is. But we do want to leave you with one final thought to ponder on your own today.
Yeah.
We've talked entirely about individual wealth and personal dominion throughout this deep dive. But what if everyone in an economy actually adopted this unapologetic, dominance-seeking mindset?
That's a fascinating thought experiment.
Right, like if every single person viewed every transaction as a step toward total market monopoly, what happens to society?
Yeah.
Does the entire system elevate to an unprecedented utopia of innovation and flawless products? Or, does it become a ruthless, cutthroat landscape where only a few massive monopolies survive and the rest are crushed?
That is the ultimate question of scale.
It really is. So take a hard look at your own bank account today. If it really is just a receipt for your current level of thinking, what specific thought patterns do you need to evict right now to make room for a new level of inventory?
Give that some thought.
Thank you for joining us as we explore the mechanics of wealth. Keep questioning the things you think you know, and we will see you next time.